The air in the workshop crackled with the frantic energy of creation. Dust motes danced in the single shaft of sunlight filtering through the grimy window, illuminating the chaos of tools, sketches, and half-formed dreams. Amelia, her brow furrowed in concentration, held the necklace aloft, turning it slowly in the light. Eclipse, she murmured, the name a soft echo in the cluttered space. The piece was a stark contrast of obsidian and diamonds, a visual representation of the shadows and brilliance that warred within her own soul. The obsidian, polished to a mirror sheen, held the darkness of a moonless night, while the diamonds, sharp and brilliant, captured and refracted the light, a constellation trapped in metal. She traced a fingertip along the intricate setting, feeling the cool, smooth surface of the obsidian. It was a piece born of pain, of the slow, creeping realization that her life, her marriage, was not the fairy tale she had imagined. It was a reflection of the growing chasm between her and Daniel, a chasm she could no longer ignore. A single tear, hot and heavy, escaped her eye, tracing a path down her cheek, mirroring the sharp, unwavering glint of a diamond facet. The tear was a testament to her frustration, her loneliness, and the burning desire to escape the suffocating shadow of her husband's success. Amelia was a ghost in the high-end jewelry world, a whisper lost in the cacophony of established names and glittering reputations. Her designs, bold and unconventional, were deemed too raw, too emotional for the delicate sensibilities of the elite. They preferred the predictable sparkle of traditional pieces, the safe and unchallenging beauty that demanded nothing from the viewer. But Amelia's pieces demanded attention, they demanded feeling, they demanded a response. They were a reflection of her own soul, a soul that yearned to break free from the constraints of expectation. Tonight, however, was different. Tonight she had a chance. The invitation, a gilded card embossed with the words World Jewelry Gala, lay on her cluttered workbench, a fragile promise of recognition. It was a golden ticket, a chance to step into the spotlight, to finally show the world the brilliance of her vision. But the promise was tainted, shadowed by the looming presence of Daniel's company gala, a lavish affair scheduled for the same night. Daniel, her husband, the CEO of a burgeoning tech empire, was a man of impeccable taste and unwavering ambition. His world was one of boardrooms and champagne toasts, of power suits and polished smiles. He moved through life with the confidence of a man who held the world in the palm of his hand. Amelia, on the other hand, was a quiet storm, a force of nature contained within the walls of her workshop. She was a creator, an artist, a woman who poured her soul into every piece she crafted. The conflict between their two worlds was a constant undercurrent in their marriage, a silent battle fought in the unspoken words and the carefully constructed silences. Daniel, in his own way, loved her, but his love was overshadowed by his ambition, by his unwavering focus on his own success. He saw her talent, but he didn't understand its depth, its raw, untamed power. The choice that lay before her was agonizing. The gala, her chance to finally break free from the shadows, or Daniel's gala, a symbol of her commitment to a marriage that was slowly crumbling. She picked up the invitation, her fingers tracing the embossed lettering. The weight of her dreams, the weight of her loneliness, the weight of her unspoken resentment pressed down on her, a heavy, suffocating burden. She looked again at Eclipse, the obsidian gleaming in the dim light, a mirror reflecting her own fractured soul. She had to go to the jewelry gala. She had to show them all. The penthouse apartment, a monument to Daniel's success, felt like a gilded cage. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the city's glittering skyline, but Amelia saw only the reflection of her own troubled face. Daniel's voice, smooth and authoritative, echoed through the vast, minimalist living room. "Amelia, darling, you wouldn't miss the company gala, would you? It's crucial for my image." His eyes, usually warm and inviting, held a distant, almost dismissive glint, a coldness that sent a shiver down her spine. She held up the World Jewelry Gala invitation, the gold card a stark contrast to the sleek, modern Dacre. "Daniel, this is my chance, my only chance. They want to see Eclipse." Her voice trembled, not with fear, but with a desperate plea for understanding. He brushed her words aside, his attention already drifting towards his phone, his fingers tapping out a message. "Darling, you know how important this gala is." It's for the shareholders, for the future of the company. His words were a familiar refrain, a constant reminder of her secondary role in his life. She was the supportive wife, the silent partner, the elegant accessory to his success. But tonight, she felt a surge of defiance, a refusal to be relegated to the shadows. His assistant, Sophia, always impeccably dressed, always a little too close, entered the room, her presence a subtle intrusion. Daniel, the caterers are confirming the seating arrangements. They need to know if Mrs. Sterling will be attending. Her voice, smooth and saccharine, grated on Amelia's nerves. Daniel looked up, his expression softening slightly as he turned to Sophia. Of course she'll be there, wouldn't miss it for the world. He placed a casual hand on Sophia's arm, a gesture that, in any other context, might have seemed innocent, but tonight, it felt like a deliberate act of betrayal. Amelia's heart clenched, a fist of ice tightening around her ribs. She saw the subtle glance that passed between them, a silent exchange that spoke volumes. The choice, once a difficult decision, now felt inevitable. She would go to the jewelry gala. She would show them all, not just her talent, but her strength, her independence. She would not be defined by his success, by his expectations. She would forge her own path, even if it meant walking away from the life she had built. The day of the galas arrived, a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. The penthouse buzzed with activity, caterers setting up elaborate displays, florists arranging extravagant bouquets. Amelia watched the scene unfold, a detached observer in her own home. She felt like a ghost, a silent witness to a life that was no longer hers. She slipped away, unnoticed, and returned to her workshop, a sanctuary of creativity and solitude. She dressed in a simple black dress, a stark contrast to the elaborate gowns she knew she would see at Daniel's gala. She fastened eclipse around her neck, the cool obsidian a grounding presence. She looked in the mirror, her reflection a woman transformed, a woman ready to face the world on her own terms. The taxi ride to the World Jewelry Gala was a blur, a transition from one world to another. The glittering lights of the city blurred into a kaleidoscope of colors, a reflection of the tumultuous emotions swirling within her. As she stepped out of the taxi, she took a deep breath, the cool night air filling her lungs. She was ready. She was ready to show them all. She was ready to be seen. The ballroom shimmered, a sea of sequins and champagne flutes, a spectacle of wealth and extravagance. Amelia, in her simple black dress, felt like a solitary rock in a glittering, turbulent ocean. The air hummed with the murmur of conversations, the clinking of glasses, the soft strains of a string quartet. It was a world of curated beauty, of carefully constructed facades, a world she had never truly belonged to. She clutched Eclipse, the obsidian cool against her skin, a grounding presence in the overwhelming opulence. The necklace was a stark contrast to the diamond-encrusted pieces that adorned the necks and wrists of the attendees, a testament to her unique vision, her refusal to conform. She moved through the crowd, a silent observer, her eyes scanning the room, searching for a familiar face, a flicker of recognition. Eleanor Vance, a legendary jewelry critic, her eyes sharp and perceptive, her presence a force in the room, approached Amelia, her gaze drawn to the necklace. That piece, she murmured, her voice laced with intrigue, a low, resonant tone that cut through the ambient noise. It speaks of a depth I rarely see. There's a story here, a raw emotion that transcends mere beauty. Eleanor's words, a lifeline in the sea of indifference, offered a flicker of hope. For the first time that night, Amelia felt seen, understood. She found herself drawn to Eleanor's presence, to her unwavering gaze, to the quiet strength that emanated from her. Eleanor was a beacon, a guiding light in the overwhelming darkness of the room. But the shadows of Daniel and Sophia, their laughter echoing across the room, cast a long, chilling pall. Amelia's gaze drifted towards them, her heart clenching at the sight of their intertwined bodies, their easy intimacy. They moved together, a practiced dance, a silent language of shared secrets and unspoken desires. Daniel's face, usually warm and inviting, was flushed with champagne and laughter. His eyes, when they occasionally flickered towards her, held a distant, almost dismissive glint, a coldness that sent a shiver down her spine. Sophia, her eyes sparkling with practiced charm, clung to Daniel's arm, her presence a constant, subtle reminder of Amelia's isolation. The weight of their betrayal. the realization that her marriage was a carefully constructed illusion, settled upon Amelia like a heavy cloak. She felt a profound sense of loneliness, a sense of being adrift in a sea of strangers, even in the midst of the glittering crowd. The room, once a symbol of opportunity, now felt like a gilded cage, a reminder of the life she was leaving behind. She moved away from the crowd, seeking refuge in a quiet corner, her gaze drawn to the city lights twinkling through the floor to ceiling windows. The city, a vast expanse of light and shadow, mirrored the turmoil within her own heart. She was a woman on the precipice, a woman standing at the crossroads of her life. The soft strains of the string quartet, once a soothing melody, now felt like a mournful lament, a soundtrack to her heartbreak. She closed her eyes, trying to block out the noise, the laughter, the sight of Daniel and Sophia. She needed to find her strength, to find her voice, to find her own way in this glittering, unforgiving world. She would not be defined by their betrayal. She would not be silenced by their indifference. She would rise above the ashes, like a phoenix, and claim her own destiny. The initial reception to Eclipse was a lukewarm drizzle in a torrential downpour of indifference. Amelia watched, her heart sinking as the attendees, their eyes glazed with diamonds and social posturing, offered polite, but ultimately dismissive, nods. They were accustomed to the predictable sparkle of traditional pieces, the safe and unchallenging beauty that demanded nothing from the viewer. Eclipse, with its raw emotion and stark contrast, was too confronting, too real. A wave of disappointment washed over her, a cold, heavy feeling that threatened to drown her in its depths. She had poured her soul into this piece, infused it with her pain, her anger, her yearning for freedom, and it was met with polite disinterest. The realization hit her with the force of a tidal wave. She was an outsider, a misfit in this world of curated elegance. Then she saw them. Daniel and Sophia, their faces flushed with champagne and laughter, their bodies intertwined in a silent dance of intimacy. They were oblivious to her presence, lost in their own little world of whispered secrets and stolen glances. The sight was a knife twisting in her already wounded heart, a stark reminder of the crumbling facade of her marriage. The carefully constructed illusion of their perfect life shattered into a million pieces, leaving behind a jagged, painful emptiness. She had been blind, or perhaps she had simply chosen to ignore the signs, the subtle shifts in Daniel's behavior, the growing distance between them. She had clung to the hope that their love, however flawed, was enough to sustain them. But it wasn't. It was built on a foundation of lies and unspoken resentments, a foundation that had finally crumbled beneath the weight of their unspoken truths. She felt a surge of anger, hot and fierce, a burning desire to lash out, to shatter their carefully constructed world as they had shattered hers. But she suppressed the impulse, knowing that a public confrontation would only diminish her, reduce her to their level. Instead, she turned away, her gaze drawn to the damaged display near the center of the room. Juliet, a rival designer, her face twisted with a malicious smirk, stood amidst the wreckage, feigning concern. "Oh, how clumsy of me," she purred, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Such a shame, such a unique piece." Amelia's eyes narrowed. She knew it was no accident. Juliet, envious of the attention Eclipse had briefly garnered, had deliberately sabotaged her display. The realization that her work, her passion, was a target for such petty jealousy was a bitter pill to swallow. The stakes were no longer just professional, they were deeply personal. This wasn't just about a necklace, it was about her identity, her worth, her right to exist in a world that seemed determined to exclude her. She wouldn't let them win. She wouldn't let them silence her. She took a deep breath, the cool night air filling her lungs, and made a decision. She would repair Eclipse. She would salvage the wreckage and transform it into something even more powerful, something that would silence their whispers and shatter their indifference. She would rise from the ashes, like a phoenix, and claim her own destiny. The rising tide of her anger, of her determination, pushed away the feeling of despair. She would show them all. The workshop, usually a sanctuary of creative chaos, now felt like a battleground. The damaged pieces of Eclipse lay scattered across the workbench, like fallen soldiers, their obsidian shards reflecting the harsh glare of the overhead lamp. Amelia, her face set in a mask of grim determination, began the painstaking process of repair. Each shard, each broken piece, was a symbol of the wounds inflicted on her soul, the cracks in her carefully constructed world. But she wouldn't let them define her. She wouldn't let them break her. She would reclaim the embers of her shattered dreams and forge them into something new, something stronger. She worked with a fierce intensity, her hands moving with a practiced precision, her fingers tracing the delicate lines of the obsidian, the sharp edges of the diamonds. She was a sculptor, a creator, a woman rebuilding her own shattered identity. The anger that had fueled her earlier was now tempered with a quiet resolve. It wasn't the anger of defeat, but the anger of a phoenix rising from ashes, the anger of a woman reclaiming her power. She wouldn't be a victim. She wouldn't let them diminish her art, her voice, her very essence. As she worked, she remembered Alina Vance's words, her voice a low, resonant echo in the quiet workshop. There's a story here, a raw emotion that transcends mere beauty. She understood now. Eclipse wasn't just a necklace. It was a testament to her pain, her resilience, her unwavering belief in her own worth. She decided to alter the design, to incorporate the damage, to transform the broken pieces into a symbol of her strength. She added a swirling pattern of obsidian dust, a dark, iridescent powder that shimmered like captured starlight, creating a visual representation of her pain and her defiance. The necklace was no longer just beautiful. It was powerful, it was raw, it was real. The hours melted away, the silence broken only by the soft clinking of tools and the rhythmic rasp of her breath. She was lost in the process, consumed by the act of creation, by the need to transform her pain into something beautiful, something powerful. When she finally stepped back, the necklace was transformed. It was no longer a fragile piece of art. It was a weapon, a testament to her resilience, a symbol of her unwavering spirit. The obsidian shimmered with an inner light, the diamonds gleamed with a newfound intensity. She fastened the necklace around her neck, the cool obsidian a grounding presence against her skin. She looked in the mirror, her reflection a woman reborn, a woman transformed. The shadows in her eyes were gone, replaced by a fierce determination, a quiet strength. She was ready. She was ready to return to the gala, to face them all, to show them the true meaning of beauty, the true power of art. She was ready to reclaim her voice, her identity, her destiny. She was ready to rise. She was ready to show them all that she would not be defeated. Returning to the gala felt like stepping back into a battlefield. The air, thick with the scent of champagne and expensive perfume, vibrated with an undercurrent of tension. The earlier atmosphere of polite indifference had shifted, replaced by a palpable curiosity, a silent anticipation. Word of the damaged necklace and Amelia's subsequent disappearance had spread through the crowd like wildfire. Amelia moved through the room with a newfound confidence, her gaze unwavering, her posture radiating an aura of quiet strength. Eclipse, now repaired and transformed, gleamed against her black dress, a beacon of defiance in the sea of glittering jewels. The swirling obsidian dust, catching the light, created an illusion of captured starlight, drawing the eyes of the attendees like moths to a flame. She paused near the center of the room, her gaze locking with Juliet's. The rival designer's face, once twisted with malicious satisfaction, now registered a flicker of unease. The smug smirk had vanished, replaced by a nervous twitch. Daniel, his face a mask of carefully constructed composure, approached her, his eyes drawn to the transformed necklace. "Amelia," he began, his voice laced with a forced tenderness, "I'm glad you're back. I was worried." His words, once capable of melting her heart, now sounded hollow, empty. She met his gaze, her eyes reflecting the cold, hard glint of the diamonds in Eclipse. "Were you?" she asked, her voice devoid of emotion. Before he could respond, she turned away, her attention drawn to the stage where Alina Vance stood, her presence commanding the room's attention. Alina's eyes, sharp and perceptive, held a knowing glint as she addressed the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen," she announced, her voice resonating through the hushed ballroom, "we have witnessed a remarkable display of artistry tonight. A piece that has not only captured the beauty of precious stones, but also the raw, unyielding spirit of its creator." She gestured towards Amelia, her eyes holding a silent encouragement. "Amelia Sterling, please, grace us with the story of Eclipse." Amelia stepped onto the stage, the spotlight illuminating her like a warrior stepping into the arena. The room fell silent, the only sound the soft rustle of silk and the clinking of champagne glasses. She looked out at the faces in the crowd, the faces that had dismissed her earlier, the faces that had witnessed her humiliation. She began to speak, her voice clear and strong, telling the story of Eclipse, the story of its creation, its destruction, and its rebirth. She spoke of pain, of loss, of betrayal, but also of resilience, of strength, of the unwavering belief in one's own worth. As she spoke, the room transformed. The glittering facade of the gala began to crumble, revealing the raw, vulnerable humanity beneath. The attendees, once detached observers, were now captivated, drawn into the emotional vortex of her story. Daniel watched from the sidelines, his face a mask of shock and dawning realization. He saw his wife, not as the quiet, supportive woman he had always known, but as a force of nature, a woman of unwavering strength and undeniable talent. He saw the woman he had underestimated, the woman he was losing. He saw the steel beneath the beauty. The silence that followed Amelia's story was thick, heavy, a palpable manifestation of the emotional weight she had unleashed. The glittering facade of the gala had shattered, revealing the raw, vulnerable humanity beneath. The attendees, once detached observers, were now captivated, their eyes reflecting the emotional turmoil that Amelia had laid bare. But for Amelia, the triumph was fleeting, overshadowed by a wave of crushing exhaustion. The emotional toll of the evening, the confrontation with Daniel, the public exposure of her pain, left her feeling drained, hollow. The spotlight, once a symbol of her long-awaited recognition, now felt like a harsh, unforgiving glare. She stepped off the stage, her legs heavy, her movements mechanical. The cheers and applause, though genuine, sounded distant, muffled, like the echo of a forgotten dream. She felt a profound sense of isolation, a sense of being adrift in a sea of well-meaning strangers. Daniel approached her, his face etched with a mixture of remorse and confusion. "Amelia," he began, his voice a low, pleading murmur. I didn't understand. I didn't understand what you were going through." His words, though sincere, sounded hollow, empty. They were too little, too late. He had seen her pain, he had witnessed her strength, but he still didn't truly understand. He had seen the performance, but not the person. Amelia looked at him, her eyes reflecting the weariness that had settled upon her soul. "You saw the show, Daniel," she said, her voice flat, devoid of emotion. "But you didn't see me." She turned away, seeking refuge in the quiet solitude of the ladies' room, the cool marble a stark contrast to the heat of the ballroom. She stared at her reflection in the mirror, her face pale, her eyes shadowed. She looked like a ghost, a hollow shell of the woman she had once been. The weight of her shattered marriage, the realization that the life she had built was a carefully constructed illusion, settled upon her like a suffocating blanket. She felt a profound sense of loss, a sense of having lost not only her husband, but also a part of herself. She sank onto a plush velvet chair, her body aching, her mind reeling. The triumphs of the night faded into the background, replaced by the stark reality of her situation. She was alone, adrift, a woman on the precipice of an unknown future. The darkness that had threatened to consume her earlier returned, its tendrils reaching out, pulling her down into the depths of despair. She felt a profound sense of self-doubt, a sense of having failed, of having not been enough. She closed her eyes, trying to block out the noise, the memories, the pain. She wanted to disappear, to vanish into the shadows, to escape the harsh glare of reality. She felt like she was drowning, the weight of her emotions pulling her down into an abyss of despair. The echo of her own words, the words she had spoken on stage, resonated in her mind. "We are not defined by our pain. We are defined by how we rise above it." But in that moment, she felt like she had nothing left to rise with. She was broken, she was defeated, she was alone. The darkness was winning. The cool marble of the ladies' room offered a stark contrast to the glittering warmth of the ballroom, a sanctuary of quiet solitude. Amelia sat, her reflection a pale ghost in the mirror, the echo of her own despair ringing in her ears. The darkness that had threatened to consume her felt heavy, suffocating, a tangible weight on her soul. But even in the depths of her despair, a flicker of defiance remained, a tiny ember glowing in the ashes of her shattered emotions. It was a spark of resilience, a refusal to be defined by her pain, a stubborn insistence on her own worth. A soft knock on the door broke the silence. Eleanor Vance entered, her presence a calming force in the sterile space. Her eyes, sharp and perceptive, held a quiet understanding, a knowing gaze that saw beyond Amelia's facade of weariness. "Amelia," she said, her voice a low, resonant murmur, "you are an artist, you are a creator. Your pain, your vulnerability is not a weakness. It is your strength." Her words, like a gentle balm, soothed the raw edges of Amelia's despair. They were a reminder of her own power, a reminder of the woman she had become, the woman she was still becoming. "You have shown us the truth tonight," Elena continued, her voice firm but gentle. "You have shown us the raw, unadulterated beauty of your soul. Do not let them steal that from you. Do not let them steal your voice." Eleanor's words resonated deep within Amelia, igniting a spark of renewal, a flicker of hope in the darkness. She remembered the words she had spoken on stage, the words that had resonated with the audience, the words that had revealed the truth of her pain and her resilience. She was not defined by her pain. She was defined by how she rose above it. She was not a victim. She was a creator, an architect of her own destiny. A surge of determination, a renewed sense of purpose, washed over her, pushing back the darkness, clearing the fog of despair. She would not succumb to the weight of her emotions. She would not allow herself to be defined by her broken marriage, by her shattered dreams. She stood up, her movements regaining their strength, her gaze regaining its focus. She looked at her reflection in the mirror, and she saw not a ghost, but a woman reborn, a woman transformed. She would not return to the ballroom as a broken woman. She would return as a force, as a creator, as a woman who had reclaimed her voice, her identity, her power. She would not seek revenge, she would not seek pity. She would seek understanding, and she would seek her own path. She took a deep breath, the cool air filling her lungs, and she felt a sense of clarity, a sense of purpose. She would rebuild her life, piece by piece, like she had rebuilt Eclipse. She would forge a new path, a path that was uniquely her own. She would not be defined by Daniel, by his expectations, by his betrayal. She would be defined by her art, by her strength, by her unwavering belief in her own worth. She would return to the ballroom, not as a woman seeking validation, but as a woman who had found her own voice, her own strength, her own destiny. She would return as Amelia Sterling, the artist, the creator, the architect of her own self. She would return, and she would rise. Amelia returned to the ballroom, her presence radiating a newfound confidence, a quiet strength that commanded attention. The atmosphere had shifted, the earlier tension replaced by a hushed anticipation. The attendees, their eyes drawn to her like moths to a flame, parted to make way for her, their gazes filled with a mixture of curiosity and respect. She moved towards the stage, her steps measured, her gaze unwavering. Daniel stood near the edge of the crowd, his face etched with a mixture of remorse and a desperate hope for reconciliation. But Amelia's focus was not on him. It was on the audience, on the people who had witnessed her pain, her vulnerability, her strength. She stepped onto the stage, the spotlight illuminating her like a warrior stepping into the arena. Eclipse, now fully repaired and transformed, gleamed against her black dress, a symbol of her resilience, her unwavering spirit. The swirling obsidian dust, catching the light, created an illusion of captured starlight, a testament to her ability to transform pain into beauty. She held the necklace aloft, the silence in the room deepening, becoming almost tangible. "This piece," she began, her voice clear and strong, resonating through the hushed ballroom, "is not just a necklace. It is a story. It is a story of pain, of loss, of betrayal. But it is also a story of resilience, of strength, of the unwavering belief in one's own worth." She paused, her gaze sweeping across the faces in the crowd. "We are not defined by our pain. We are defined by how we rise above it. We are not defined by our losses. We are defined by what we create from the ashes." She lowered the necklace, her eyes locking with Daniel's. "This piece," she said, her voice laced with a quiet intensity, "is not for you, Daniel. It is for me. It is for every woman who has ever felt silenced, diminished, or betrayed." A collective gasp rippled through the crowd, a wave of emotion that washed over the room. The attendees, once detached observers, were now fully invested, their eyes reflecting the raw emotion that Amelia had unleashed. She turned away from Daniel, her gaze drawn to the audience. "This is my voice," she declared, her voice ringing with newfound confidence. "This is my art. This is my truth." She began to speak again, her voice weaving a tapestry of words, a story of self-discovery, of empowerment, of the unwavering belief in one's own worth. She spoke of the power of creation, the ability to transform pain into beauty, to forge a new path from the ashes of destruction. The room was silent, captivated by her words, by her presence, by the raw, unadulterated emotion that radiated from her. The glittering facade of the gala had completely crumbled, revealing the raw, vulnerable humanity beneath. Amelia's words were not a condemnation of Daniel, nor were they a plea for pity. They were a declaration of independence, a proclamation of her own worth, a testament to her ability to rise above the ashes and claim her own destiny. As she finished speaking, a wave of applause erupted, a thunderous ovation that filled the ballroom. The attendees, their eyes shining with tears and admiration, rose to their feet, their applause a testament to the power of her words, the power of her art, the power of her truth. Daniel watched from the sidelines, his face etched with a mixture of remorse and a dawning realization. He had witnessed the unveiling of Amelia's true self, the woman he had underestimated, the woman he had lost. He had witnessed the climax of her creation, the unveiling of her truth. He had lost. The thunderous applause echoed through the ballroom, a wave of sound that washed over Amelia, a testament to the power of her words, the power of her art. She stood on the stage, bathed in the warm glow of the spotlight, her gaze sweeping across the faces in the crowd. She saw tears, she saw admiration, she saw a reflection of her own journey in their eyes. Daniel approached her, his face etched with remorse, his eyes pleading for forgiveness. "Amelia," he began, his voice a low, trembling murmur, I understand now. I understand what I've lost." Amelia looked at him, her eyes reflecting the quiet strength that had settled within her. "You didn't lose me, Daniel," she said, her voice calm, devoid of bitterness. "You lost yourself, you lost sight of who I was, of who you were. And you lost the chance to walk beside me, not ahead of me." His words, though sincere, were too late. The chasm between them was too wide, the wounds too deep. The woman he had known, the woman he had taken for granted, was gone. In her place stood a woman reborn, a woman transformed, a woman who had found her own voice, her own strength, her own destiny. She turned away from him, her gaze drawn to the audience, to the people who had witnessed her journey, her transformation. "Tonight," she declared, her voice ringing with newfound confidence, "we have witnessed not just the unveiling of a necklace, but the unveiling of a truth. We have witnessed the power of creation, the power of resilience, the power of the human spirit to rise above the ashes." She held Eclipse aloft, the obsidian shimmering like captured starlight, the diamonds gleaming with a newfound intensity. "This piece," she said, her voice filled with a quiet pride, "is not just a symbol of my pain. It is a symbol of my triumph. It is a symbol of my freedom." The applause erupted again, even louder than before, a thunderous ovation that filled the ballroom, a wave of sound that washed over Amelia, a testament to her strength, her courage, her unwavering belief in her own worth. She stepped off the stage, her steps light, her heart filled with a sense of peace she had not felt in years. She moved through the crowd, her gaze meeting the eyes of the attendees, her smile genuine, her spirit free. Eleanor Vance approached her, her eyes shining with admiration. "Amelia," she said, her voice filled with warmth, "you are an artist, you are a creator, you are a force." Amelia smiled, her eyes reflecting the quiet confidence that radiated from within her. "Thank you, Eleanor," she said, her voice filled with gratitude. "You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself." The night ended, but the echoes of Amelia's triumph lingered, a testament to her strength, her courage, her unwavering belief in her own worth. She left the ballroom, not as a broken woman, but as a woman reborn, a woman transformed, a woman who had found her own voice, her own destiny. She stepped out into the cool night air, the city lights twinkling like a million stars, a reflection of the brilliance that now shone within her own soul. She was free, she was whole. She was Amelia Sterling, the artist, the creator, the architect of her own tomorrow, and she was ready. She was ready to create her own future, one piece of art, one act of courage, one moment of truth at a time. The echo of freedom resonated within her,